Welcome to All Things Geekery, the podcast dedicated to exploring the vast world of geeky hobbies and discussing all the random topics in between. I'm your host, Iogro, and welcome to the show. Welcome back to the podcast, guys. I know it's been a little while since we've posted. Again, we've been really busy, and we have had a ton of stuff drop over the past few weeks for Star Wars. One, the Last Jedi teaser trailer, but we also got some very exciting news about the movie itself and even some news on Battlefront 2. So there's a lot going on in the realm of Star Wars right now. So you guys enjoy this episode and welcome back to the All Things Geekery podcast, episode 8. Because we're going to be digging in and giving you guys a breakdown of the trailer and our thoughts on what we are so hoping this movie is going to be.
Out. What do you see? Light. Darkness. A balance. It's so much bigger. I only know one truth. It's time for the Jedi to end.
So, in looking at the trailer, you see one of the first scenes here is, rock. I'm immediately assuming planet. What is this rocky, desolate planet that's going on here? And then boom, hand right there.
It was funny. When this thing first came up, it looked like you were in space for a couple of seconds. And then, like you said, it was bam in the face. A hand just drops out of nowhere. And we jump right into this almost what we look like. It's going to be a big action scene, but it's really not. Right.
It almost has the exact same feel of like we saw in the Force Awakens teaser with Finn popping up out of the desert.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. But one thing to note, it pans out and here's Rey right here. Very, looks like exhausted, worn out, anxious, I could say.
Yeah, very, very anxious look on her face right now. One, either she's been in battle or maybe she's running from something. I don't know, but it does look like she's very anxious or maybe even a little scared.
Yeah. Also, a call out here is look at her clothing. That's the exact same clothing that we saw at the end of The Force Awakens, and it tells us when this movie is supposed to take up. It's not years in the future or it's as The Force Awakens ended. Boom. Here's the next movie right here. Which,
I do have to make a call out here because how many guys run around in Star Wars that, have closets full of wardrobes of clothes that they get to change into? I bet they stink for one. I bet they have to wear these clothes for days upon days upon days. I bet they are just nasty.
Now, see, that's probably true, but more than likely they use their refreshers that they have on the houses and the ships that they have.
Yeah, that's a
So,
that's a cop out. That's a Star Wars cop out. I'm gonna call that right there. I'm just gonna say we don't really know how long she's had these clothes on because she had these on in the beginning of Force Awakens when we saw her. She never changed. She sweated. She got bug goo all over her. And at the very end of the movie, we saw her out in the middle of this ocean on, I'm guessing, what is the same piece of rock that we see her on right now. And yet again, she's got the same darn clothes on again.
yeah. Well, I think it's just the fact that whatever she was doing, it takes place immediately after the end of the last movie. Yeah. But it's a different spot. You notice here you got the cave in the background, so she's come down from her little plateau, given Luke the lightsaber, presented it to him, and something's happened. She's either something's been revealed to her, or she's going through something right now. So, see what happens with that point. And then, of course, a very fantastic Lucasfilms produced the music for everything.
Yeah, this is one of the most iconic opening. I think this, if you're a Star Wars fan or just a LucasArts fan in general, whether it's on their game side or their film side, I think anytime you see that, if you're a big time Star Wars nerd, you get goosebumps every time you see that because you're going, I got to watch the movie.
Oh yeah, any of the games, no matter how bad they turned out or how good they turned out, you saw that, and for me, it was an awesome feeling, no matter what it was.
When Force Awakens, when the whole hype began about it, we kind of, the Star Wars fans kept very close to the community and kind of knew things were happening in that realm. And, the LucasArts logo flashed across the screen when we first saw that trailer. And, I'll say this, I wasn't as big of a fan as Force Awakens as some were. I think there was a few things that JJ Abrams strayed away from, but all in all, I think the film was amazing. Great graphics. I think the story they came up with was fantastic, though they did venture away from the legends and what we know as canon for Star Wars. But I think it all fit together very well for where the film is going. And this one looks like it's going to be even better.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, from just the teaser that we've seen so far, it does look promising. So pull us back here in this scene here. Looks like we're back on this island, back where we're at. Doesn't look like we moved. Sun is, I'm going to assume it's going to be setting here, but just one of those, it draws you in scenes. Not a whole lot happening. Doesn't give a whole lot away.
Yeah, this is to me, this is kind of the setting of peacefulness. But it's also a setting of solitude as well. And, Luke has been out on this thing for years upon years.
Yeah. Or he could have been, this is one of his last hops in searching for the last temples, the last Jedi temples. It's interesting to see this. You can assume this is a young world in the order of things because it's only got some sparse islands here and there. But
yeah, there doesn't look to be anything around this island other than this one little piece of land. It looks like there's nothing but water around it. So, I'm curious to see exactly where and how they pull this into the film. Does it become a major landmark? Maybe it's a historical piece that we've already maybe heard of, read about, seen somewhere. I'm curious to see really what they do with it.
Yeah, I mean, if looking at this exact same island now from an aerial view, you can see this supposedly was a location of an ancient Jedi Force wielding society. You can see some natural, or I should say, human-made outcroppings around it, and it also gives it scale. This is a tiny island.
Yeah, it's not very big.
Yeah, what was so significant about it? I don't know, but it's tiny. It doesn't have a whole lot to it. Doesn't look like it, at least, or whatever was there is eroded away with millennia of time.
Now, when we first saw this in Force Awakens with Rey flying in, and she walked up. I mean, granted, it's a mountain, so there's going to be some good size to it. All in all, the scale's very small. But when Rey found Luke, I really did question how long he had been there. Are we looking at just a very short period of time? Or are we looking at a very long period of time and there's maybe a cave system or ruins underneath this landmass that he has discovered that was originally part of some Jedi temple or Force area that he has discovered, and he's got some big knowledge and secret that goes behind it. I think that's what the Star Wars community really wants. I hope that's where they go with it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Disney did take this franchise over, so.
Yeah, never know what's going to happen. But coming up on the next scene here, we have, looks like Rey overlooking a little bay area contemplating. I think she's contemplating something there, just standing there looking. It's to draw us in. The area around it doesn't give us a whole lot to go off of. Looks like the same island we can go off of.
Yeah, more of that solitude of, or maybe it's the look of, oh crap, what did I just do? How have I gotten myself into this mess?
Yeah, and that could relate to the very first scene that we saw. You know, it's the same thing. She's coming to a realization of something. This could take place right after that or right before it. I mean, we'll find out. Also could play into how the story is going to go with what Luke actually tells her when she comes and meets him. Instead of, training her as any Jedi Master do, there might be some revelation that's going to be revealed to her that shocks her. And here we hear about Luke telling her to reach out.
Yeah, I thought this piece was kind of cool. With him saying reach out. You look back at Luke's training with Yoda, and Yoda didn't work so much on the physical aspect of lightsaber training. I mean, he did some, but not as much as he did with the mental with Luke. I think Luke, for all intensive purposes, he had to overcome his mental demons before he was ever able to actually grab a hold of the Force. And I mean, he came, very close with the dark side and actually turned over to it at one point in time, if you read those book lines. And he became a very, very powerful Force wielder, a Grandmaster Jedi. And, now we see him as a very old man. So I'm curious to see if he does start training Rey, because we see her in Force Awakens as this scavenger when we first meet her. She looks very young. She looks like she's been by herself for quite some time. She's a little disconnected from society and is kind of that social awkward moment that you get with her. But then all of a sudden she has these just magic abilities with the Force. And it's not even that she was, I think, a Force sensitive. She just all of a sudden had these grand illusions and things that were going on in her head. And I think that kind of stems back to Luke and what Yoda was doing to him. So I'm curious to see if that training is very similar with Rey. Maybe she's got internal demons and stuff that he's found out about that he's trying to work with her on. And maybe that's what that line about reach out was.
Yeah, possibly to get her to sense something, or it might be to get her to sense what he's been feeling all along, especially with the fall of his Jedi Academy.
Yeah, that's a good
Kylo
call.
Ren and his Knights of Ren destroyed. So we kind of see it here. Kind of ties in the reach out is we assume this is her here pulling on the power of the Force. And for the first time in probably any of the Star Wars scenes that are now canon, we see such power that it's just lifting everything around where there's concentration. Whereas, we saw in Empire Strikes Back, Yoda training Luke, and he had to concentrate with all his being to be able to just lift two of those big rocks.
Yeah, and here she's lifting everything around her. So that was very cool to see right off the bat as well.
And it calls out to scenes like we see in Superman Returns, where Superman is sitting there and he's about to take off, and his fist meets the ground, and then the energy around his fist starts gathering. You can see it gives a sign of immense power. So whether this alludes to Rey's actual Force ability, her oneness with the Force, we'll see. Or it just could be a call out that she's reaching out. They give more visualization that she's pulling on the powers of the Force.
Yeah, I definitely think we're looking at a very strong, Force wielder right here. Yeah, they're just from the things that we saw in Force Awakens with her ability with the lightsaber, and what she saw and did in the film. I think she's got powers well beyond any of the other Jedis that we've kind of seen in the films so far.
Yeah, which are a number of Jedi that, besides those that appeared in episodes 1, 2, and 3, are show off of the powers of the Force have only really been seen by those of the dark side and Yoda. Really, we saw some from Luke Skywalker in the A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, etc., and going on from there. But we didn't really see the power that we saw with Master Yoda in his fight with Palpatine.
Yeah, that one right there, and then even when you start looking at like the skill of the lightsaber with Master Windu, and like his calming ability with the Force, I think that right there was a good example. You start looking at those different levels of those abilities that these Jedi have. I think my favorite scene out of all of them to watch the abilities has been the iconic fight, and they weren't my favorite films by any means. The sequels of the prequels that they tried to redo and actually make them look like they were supposed to back then. The stories were really cool. The actor that played Anakin, I never cared for, but the fight scene between Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi on the volcano planet, where you got to see Anakin's anger turn into the hatred and just the discontent with his life, and Obi-Wan, being the master that he was able to keep calm and cool. But you also saw kind of that pain that the Force brings when you feel like you've been defeated, not because you've literally physically been defeated, but because Obi-Wan saw what Anakin could have been, and he also saw him fail. And I think Obi-Wan, took that to heart. So,
yeah. Well, and that was another great display of Force power. Was
yeah, absolutely.
Anakin Skywalker, the only reason he stayed alive up until Palpatine got there was he was pulling on the hatred of the dark side, his hatred, and fueling the dark side in him to keep him alive. But another call out here is, if we look right in the background, the little fuzzy shape back there, you see it looks like a blaster, and I really want to hope and pray that's Han Solo's blaster that we see right there.
I really think it is. If you look at the shape of that handle, the curvature down there on the left-hand side, it looks just like Han Solo's blaster.
Yeah, it'd be a good call out to connection between the two, and just kind of remembrance that Han Solo was there. If she's holding his DL-44 right there, whether they include that or not, or it's just a random blaster. It could also be the blaster that. Well, it could be the blaster that he gave her, but I think that one was lost on that forest planet when Kylo Ren took her.
Yeah, I would much rather it be the DL-44, one of the, probably the most iconic hand weapons ever made in a movie.
Yes, it would be very good if that one. I mean, she already has the Millennium Falcon. It'd be good if she has the DL-44.
Yeah.
So. Asking her what he sees. And coming here, and he said, the light side. We get a picture here of a Republic ship, cruiser, battleship, whatever size it is. It's a command ship. We know that for sure. We can judge by the officers here, and we assume this is Leia, General Leia.
I'm saying it is. If you look at the shape of her hair and just the outline, it looks just like her. And then there was a Twitter user that also even spoke about hearing Obi-Wan's voice in the background very faintly.
Yes, and the combination with that would be the original in A New Hope, where where she says, "Help me, Obi-Wan," and it cuts off right there in this kind of murmuring of the Force.
Yeah, and even looking back at Leia, we know that she was Force sensitive to a degree as well. You look back at Force Awakens, even when Han passed away, she knew that as it happened. You got to see it through her facial expressions. So she does have a little bit of a connection there. She doesn't nowhere near what her brother does, but if you look back at even some of the legends and some of that original canon, Leia at one time out of that was being taught and raised up to be a Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, she even towards the later times of the Legend book, she even hit the master status, Jedi Master. She was no near a swordsman or of a Force user, more of a counselor. Probably if you were calling back to the Knights of the Old Republic class, she was a Jedi counselor, but she did hit master status. But it's interesting to see her in what we knew her as, a powerful Force user, and in tune with that, but gone back to her general
very militaristic leadership style. Yeah,
leadership styles. So moving in here, we see him jumping, and it says the dark side, and we can see very clear signs. This looks like this is Kylo Ren's mask.
Yeah, you look at the ring around the eye, those metal inlets right there. And then this is one that caught me off guard a little bit. Well, I shouldn't say caught me off guard. It surprised me because it looks like it just happened, because the helmet around the eye socket and up around, it looks like it has been blown up. There's glass laying around it and it's smoking. So, was there a ship that Kylo was on, or, maybe he was in a building or something that had an explosion? If his helmet was attached to his head and it got blown up like that, what the heck happened to Kylo, for one?
Yeah, well, I think the placement of it actually calls up to what happened to it. I think is that if you look at it, all the pieces are still together, and I think he crushed it. He crushed it and destroyed it, and in his Force rage, caused everything around him to shatter. That's what we're seeing left here is him destroying that part of him, or whatever happened. Or
you think we're seeing Kylo throw another 2-year-old fit?
Well, I'm thinking we're seeing Kylo throw another 2-year-old fit, or it could be a kind of Darth Vader thing. At the end of Revenge of the Sith, where Anakin was just told that Padme died, he cried out in agony and pain, and all the objects around him started getting crushed under his anger, under his release of the Force. And it could very well be what happened here. Is he got mad at something or something?
Yeah, we definitely know that the temper from grandfather has definitely passed down to his grandson.
Yeah, that is for sure. It skipped a whole generation there.
Yeah,
but and definitely it's just happened. I mean, like you were calling out, it's smoke and everything coming from it. Call it darkness. And then here, probably the most puzzling shot in the teaser, hands down, is this shot. What in the world?
Hey, I have no idea. This is very bizarre.
We could assume it looks like a handful of books, old books. You have the very... this light shining down on it, and it looks like a tree. Looks like that's a tree behind it. So the community's got 2 lines of thought going around right now. The very popular one is that we're looking at the inside of a Force tree. Now, if that's the truth, and that's really what they've brought into this film, I'm just going to be like a little giddy schoolboy and probably jump up and cheer when I see it. Now, the other line of thought is that it's the inside of a cave system, and we're just looking at a bookshelf with some old books, and those are rocks and the formations because of like water deterioration. I like the first theory better. This is a Force tree. Oh, absolutely.
Way cooler, and it fits better with the canon. It really does.
Yeah, I think it also it looks like a tree for one, and I think it's one of the two things. It's either the Force tree, which we see a Force tree in Star Wars Clone Wars a little bit. There's a couple episodes where it has in there because we do know there was one planted in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people aren't Lunas, but this might be a Bendu tree. In Star Wars Rebels, there was you could call him a teacher. He was an understander of the Force. He knew about the dark side. He knew about the light side and how they connected to each other and how dangerous they could be connected to each other, understanding each other. But he had the design and looks of what we're seeing right here. Albeit looks like it'd be stationary and it could be settled somewhere, but maybe they might tie that in somehow to be part of this. I think whatever it is, it's going to be Force powerful because of what if these books are important to the Force, then they're imbued with Force powers, or they have a Force pull to them.
Yeah.
And so I think this area, this cave, it's like the dark side cave on Dagobah. Something had existed there for so long that it had become permeated with it. The Sith tombs on Korriban, same way. You can feel when something's been there for so long, you can feel it's left over, even over a millennia.
Just a presence, yeah.
Presence. But
whatever
it is, those are very important.
I think the most interesting part of that scene right there is, you look at the outlying sides of the screen and it's very dark. So wherever they're at, there's not much lighting at all, except for right on the center of that bookshelf. So why do you light things up? Because you need to see them. To me, that's a huge telltale sign of whatever those books are. Maybe they are, Jedi. Maybe it's Jedi material. Maybe these are the things that Luke found when he hit that island. This was my thought, and I'll just throw this theory out there, is that we are actually looking at a location inside this island that Luke found, and he has actually found like the remains of this Jedi temple where this original Force tree was planted, and they are actually inside the center of this thing.
Yeah, it would make sense for that to work out, to hollow out something as revered as a Force tree. And put something of, we can assume, great knowledge inside.
I'm guessing these are books of knowledge. Maybe it's things that the Jedi wanted to keep. Maybe it's knowledge of new ways to use the Force, or maybe it's things that they didn't want specific Jedi knowing about. Maybe they're meant to be hidden and locked away.
Yeah, or preserved.
Or preserved, yeah.
Here we see maybe one of the books that where somebody has pulled out and started looking at, and we see on the front here the very, very clear indication of a Jedi Order stamp on this book. So be interesting to call out if this is actually a understanding of the Jedi or understanding of the Force. Some people put those one and the same, but I think the understanding of the Force takes in the dark side as well. So
yeah, I think you have to, just understanding the Jedi in general. They have a very specific code that they live by, and there were definitely rogue members in the Jedi Council and all throughout the ranks. But the Jedi had a very specific order that they actually lived by. So I if this actually is a book that deals with the Force, that's clearly a Jedi Order logo stamped in this book. But you got to think too that the Jedi Order hasn't been around for quite some time. You look at Order 66 that was put in place by Palpatine. He all but wiped the Jedi off the planets. So I'm very curious to see really what this book is, because it's very old and the edges even look burnt, or maybe they're just so deteriorated the corners have just fallen out. And again, right around that logo that we see for the Jedi Order, that crest, there is some text and wording there. I don't know what it is, but and whose hand is this? It's covered up with a glove. So is this Luke, and he's found information in this book? Or is maybe this book's something that is so important to the Jedi Order that this has been stolen by somebody in maybe the Empire or maybe even a Dark Lord.
Could be. Definitely. I would think it's somebody else just because of the gloves we're seeing in here. Somebody else has come in, looked at these books, or it could be Rey and Luke, and they've just been wearing some type of garb to come get this. In the previous scenes, she said the light side, the dark side, the balance. And then Luke here coming into this scene, he says it's so much bigger. So, it kind of calls out to what he's now understanding of the Force, his look out of the Force itself is probably, his eyes have been opened, it sounds like, in what he thinks of the Force and what the Jedi need to be, or what the Jedi, or how the Sith have been.
Yeah, he's definitely learned a bunch, you can tell, and that brings up so many theories. But the Star Wars community is going nuts right now with all the theories and everything that's out there. The biggest theory right now is that we are actually looking at Luke as being a gray Jedi. Gray Jedi, they used both the light and the dark. They were kind of rogues in the Order. So that's kind of an interesting theory to really find out what we're up against. And there's big questions right now with, are we talking about the Last Jedi? If you look at the word Jedi, it's both singular and plural. So are we looking at the Last Jedi being a plural? I don't think we are. I think we're looking at a singular line for Jedi. I think potentially with what we get ready to hear Luke say in a couple of minutes is Luke is the true Last Jedi in the Order that we know. Star Wars fans have been brought up for 40 years now with this understanding of what the Jedi was. And with Luke saying it's so much bigger, I think that's why he said what he said here in a couple of minutes about the Jedi.
Yeah. It'd be interesting because without them actually mentioned, we've seen several great Jedi and how they've acted and how they've done in the now canonical universe. Two of those being Master Sifo Dyas, the one that placed the order for the Republic Army,
mm-hmm.
and there was also Qui-Gon Jinn was a Grey Jedi.
Qui-Gon was quite rebellious.
Yeah, so those that they didn't necessarily embrace the dark side, but they didn't see the Jedi code. They didn't completely constrain to it.
Yeah, it wasn't like a binding contract for them. It was quite a thin line between what the Jedi held so dear, and they seemed to go around those lines very easily. And I mean, you look at Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was a very powerful Jedi. I mean, he became a master level in his order, and he was a great teacher. He was very wise, but he also had kind of that rebellious side to him. So seeing him, and he does remind me of Luke in a way, with their kind of attitudes towards everything. Luke had that rebellious side to him as well. He also had that. He had a pull for anger. I mean, he did, I think, because he felt abandoned in his life. So I think that was another thing that kind of fueled that anger for him. And we got to see that in the Return of the Jedi when he was talking with his father, and we got to see that rage come out.
Yeah, and that was the one pull of the dark side on him, was that.
And I think this was cool with the Grey Jedi, is they understood both the light and dark side, but yet they were never really tempted to fully turn to the dark side. I think they knew some of those skills, and it wasn't so much of an evil to them as it was more of a taboo, and there was always a curiosity for what that dark side could actually do.
Yeah, well, it's very much like the Bendu tree. There was a balance. They didn't adhere to the strict rules that was the Jedi code, but they never gave themselves the uncontrolled nature that is the dark side.
Yeah.
Coming right off very surreal scenes, calling it to one people, and right into it, we're in the action again. At first, this came as soon as the scene started. I saw a desert, I saw trails of smoke, I saw 2 pods.
Yeah.
I was like, pod racing. Like, first thing popped in my head.
It reminded me of the pod racing. Absolutely, all I could hear was the whoop 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 driving down.
But then, the next recollection is these aren't pod racers; these are some machines, and there are a massive amount of AT-ATs in the background.
Dude, there's like 15 or 20 of them back. I mean, it's hard to see in the horizon, but why on earth the Empire's they're compensating. They really, really are. 15 to 20 AT-ATs. These things are freaking enormous. And then you've got these little itty bitty ships. And what the heck is the red stuff coming off of these ships, by the way? Is it a gas fume, or are they having like a streaming party? What the heck is going on with that?
I don't know. I'm chalking it up to something they're kicking up off the planet itself. I mean, we can kind of see it in the background. There's a little red in the actual rock at the background, but the dirt, all the dirt's white, so I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like white sandy beaches that they're running on. This is definitely a ship that we have not seen yet. That's for sure. And
calls out 2 things. First, it gives very big remembrance to the planet we all saw. It's not icy, but now we're on a sandy planet now fighting.
Yeah, look
Hoth.
It's very, like I said, very extreme. We went to Hoth, which was literally nothing but a giant ice planet that had ice mountains as big as forever. And now look at the size of these canyons in the back of these ships. I mean, they go on forever.
Yeah. And really, we have the same thing. Very small force attacking, and now a massive land invasion, you could say, of whatever they're attacking. The First Order, maybe? Or the Empire has decided that this target is of the needed resources to dedicate that many AT-ATs to it.
Well, so here's another line of thought, and I was thinking about this a couple of days ago, is maybe it's not the AT-ATs attacking us. I'll say us being, the rebels or the good guys, but maybe it is the rebels and their armies that have found the First Order of the Empire have made some type of home base here. And maybe they are trying to invade this place? I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens. I want to see 15 or 20 AT-ATs take on like 7 little itty-bitty ships and find out what happens.
That would be pretty good. Of course, to all rebellion or republic fashion, they will end up, winning somehow, some way. I think a tow cable will be involved, but we'll see.
Tow cable is somebody will pull out a blaster that, has like a nuclear bomb explosion. It'll take out all 15 AT-ATs.
Yeah, we'll just be done and move on. But jumps from the battle scene into, hey, here's Finn, but looks like he's
he is running for his life.
He's in recovery here. He's in a pod, still asleep. We can only assume he's still recovering from his injury that was taken from Kylo Ren itself.
Well, because he basically got the snot beat out of him, so I can only imagine the pod that he looks like he is setting in is some type of a med bay pod, but he is out like a light, unconscious. Now, if you look at the glass enclosure, I know somebody has done some, translations on those words, but there does look like there are some informations and stats to his body, maybe heart rate, blood pressure, that type of thing.
Yep, and even some people have translated the wording off the left-hand side of the screen here, and it says stable. So it's interesting they went with this type of pod container, not the normal Star Wars-centric back-to-tank. You get injured, whoop, dump you in the back-to-tank, you're good to go. They did that with Luke when he was recovering from his stint with the
It's when he got his arm cut off.
Yeah, when he got his arm cut off, but then also on Hoth when they recovered from the Hoth. On Hoth, he was in the bacta tank.
He was in the bacta tank. I'm sure he had hypothermia and all kinds of stuff from being out there so long. I do wonder, if this is how they show Finn in the opening scene here, how big of a part are we actually going to have Finn in this movie? Is it going to be a recovery process? Maybe he's on the last half of his recovery and we're going to get to see a whole lot of him, or has this literally just taken place after they found him on the planet with, after the attack from Kylo? I'm curious to see where that timeline falls for him.
Yeah. So we'll find out. Depends on if he gets, and how much time has to pass to get him into the movie itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, we don't know where this scene is, really.
Yeah. We'll see. Continue with the action here. There's now the famous Poe Dameron, best pilot in the Rebellion, and our very awesome BB-8 looks like running to something. The ship's getting attacked. We can see that, but we don't know where they're running to or from. But now we realize where they're running to. It looks like they are
running away from whatever is attacking them, because it looks like the X-Wing is done for. It went big bada boom boom.
Yeah, I mean, they get there to the hangar, and he's trying to get into it, which kind of spells into what predicament they're in. If he's not even at his X-Wing yet, something hit them, and something hit them in a surprise.
A big surprise, yeah.
They weren't even ready. So the X-Wing's there. He about gets into it, and then everything starts blowing up. And so he, we can only assume the X-Wing is gone. It gets engulfed in flames before we get to the next stage. But it doesn't look like anything happens much to BB-8 or Poe, or it just wouldn't be Star Wars.
Yeah, you can't have Star Wars without Poe or BB-8.
Yeah.
More BB-8 than Poe, but still.
Yeah, more BB-8. It's like, R2-D2. Everybody else can die, but R2-D2 can't.
R2-D2 and BB-8, best Star Wars characters ever made.
And they're droids.
And they're droids, yeah.
TIE Fighter gets shut down, but what does it get shut down by? But none other than the Millennium Falcon. So...
And a lot of people are questioning who's flying the Millennium Falcon right here if Rey is on the island with Luke. But again, it has to do with the timeline. Is this before she gets dropped off? Is this after? Is it Chewie flying the Millennium Falcon and he's got a crew with him? I'm curious to see really where this plays into the movie. It does look like we're going to have a whole ton of sky battles in outer space and lots of ships blowing up in this film.
Yeah, I mean, that if they include as much or more and they still keep the storyline with it, it's going to be a very good movie. Some people think this takes place after. I'm throwing a little theory out there that this takes place on Luke and Rey getting off the planet that they're on. The First Order has found them, and they're trying to escape.
I like that theory.
You can definitely see these are First Order TIE fighters.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're way more advanced than what most people are used to seeing.
Yeah. So very iconic shot there, Millennium Falcon. And then we go to Rey herself, and very focused, very, maybe you could say angry look.
Yeah, she definitely looked like she is about ready to kill somebody right here.
Lightsaber lit, iconic lightsaber lit, ready to go after something, someone, something, to something. We don't know. It's at dusk. Whatever it is, whatever she's going after, so. But, and it goes right into her nemesis, her person that she bested as a newbie in the last movie, Kylo Ren.
Yeah, and he was completely taken by that too. Even Snoke questioned it, so I think we're in for a big surprise. Really, what we get to see Rey do in this movie, I think is going to be quite advanced now that she's spent time with Luke. But I'm curious to see really what happened to Kylo as well. Looking at him in this trailer, he didn't quite look like I thought he should have, or maybe what I thought he was going to look like. Because she kind of beat the crap out of him in Force Awakens. and gave him some pretty nasty lightsaber strikes to his face. And here, what we get to see over him, this just does not look right.
Yeah, people thought because it looked like he had a lot of damage to his face, to his body, that they may have transitioned him to a more Darth Vader type feel. Maybe a
robot style, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe they didn't want to go that way purposely because that was Darth Vader. They wanted to stay away from that as much as possible and try to keep some human still left in him. We still don't see. There could be some more remnants from the bottom half of his face because we don't see that. We can't really see a good shot of the left hand side, so we don't know if there's more damage there. But we can now see a very definite scar over on his right eye.
And it actually looks like it's healed very well. So
yeah.
I'm curious as to the time frame. Again, there's technology that exists that helps them heal very quickly, but it was from a lightsaber. I mean, you got your face completely melted off, so.
Yeah. Some things that not even that technology could fix. But, I mean, we'll see. Another thing to call out is, even though he's done a lot of evil, he's killed his father, he's destroyed the Jedi Academy, wherever it was, he still hasn't gained the very, very clear Sith yellow eyes yet.
Yeah, that was a good call out. Even the young Sith that have, really kind of taken to it, that dark side has really turned them, and for all intensive purpose, kind of soured their soul, and it's something you don't see here. Now his eyes are very black, but yeah, you don't have that like vampirish, yellowish, orange color to them yet.
Yeah, we don't have the yellow that we saw in Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith. It was almost, in the movie, it was instantaneous, but that just change over for how much time has passed and how much evil he's done using the dark side. So, here we think this might be in the present, but I think this is the scene right here we're seeing where we have a figure cloaked in R2-D2 and a fiery building. I'm going to call it a temple in the background here. I think this is a call out back to the same scene we saw with Rey and her vision of
Force Awakens.
Luke at, I'm going to say it now, is the Jedi Academy that he was the master of. And he's come back to, it's now in flames, it's destroyed. He's dropped to his knees in defeat. And we're seeing a remembrance of that from maybe even his standpoint and his call out to what happened. So.
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, it literally just happened. The place is still on fire. I would definitely call this a temple. I am curious as to what the building to just the right of R2-D2 is, though. It's very clearly, those are wooden, building structures of some sort that have been splintered and torn down. So I am curious to find out really what this is. Is it just a memory, or are we actually going to get to see something happen in the movie about this scene? Yeah,
it could find out a little bit more to the steps leading up to, it was very mysterious where we saw one figure out in the middle of this, looked like rain, and we saw the Knights of Ren out there standing in front of this one figure. And we just saw memory flashes from Rey, but it'll be neat if they fill in the gaps, per se, of what happened. But, going along with the fire theme, we're now see parts, pieces, metal on fire, broken, destroyed, and coming from the smoke, we see an entire set of I'm gonna say First Order stormtroopers, and right in the middle, leading them is none other than Captain Phasma.
Yeah, so, the shiny mask, just the whole, and that's actually kind of a menacing look, really.
It really is, and also it confirms what people have thought, that did she make it off of the Starkiller base? Did she? I mean, because last time we heard she was going to go down a trash compactor. So it's confirmed she's alive. She's going to be in the movie. And here she is invading or walking into don't know, but looking at the left-hand side, that really does look like an airlock door, airlock hangar bay.
Yeah,
right there.
This kind of looks like the hangar that Poe and BB-8 were in. So I'm kind of thinking that Captain Phasma is a little pissed off. So, they sent some baddies up in here and they just blew the snot out of this thing. I'm pretty sure that's the X-Wing laying around on the floor right now.
It could very well be. Could very well be the black and orange X-Wing Special Forces. So, going from that, we go into a space battle. Yes, another space battle we're going to get to see, and it looks like this one is going to be on the realm of what we saw in Rogue One.
Very large scale, epic battle.
Yeah, very not quite what we saw in Return of the Jedi or in some we saw in Revenge of the Sith, but this is an updated space battle. Let's go. And we see here what are these ships? These are ships designs we have not seen before.
Yeah, these are brand new.
And the scale of them, they're really, for being what they're doing, is they're tiny. They're like Corvette size, because you can see the cockpit up there, so that puts the scale in X-Wings right near them.
They're not big at all. Maybe a transport ship of some sort?
Maybe. That would make sense for what we usually see with the Rebellion. Is usually they use pretty heavy on the transports. But what are they going to battle to? We see TIE Fighter green shots going across the screen, and then what they go into is just wave upon wave upon wave of TIE Fighters getting blown up, X-Wings getting blown up, shot. Looks like they're holding their own, though, but for whatever released them, it has to be big. It has to be for that many TIE Fighters.
Yeah, that's a lot of TIE Fighters against a very small squadron of ships. I'm guessing the Rebellion army has attacked a Star Destroyer of some sort. That's the only thing I would imagine that many TIE Fighters coming out of. TIE Fighters aren't long-distance ships. They've got to stay pretty close.
Yeah, and if it's a Star Destroyer, these, for how many ships we see on screen, it's done. They can't handle, unless they're, as they've always been, and we've seen during these type of battles, they're just a distraction. They're to hold the line until other things can get away. So if they play it that way, we'll see. There's a couple more shots. X-Wings, A-Wings. Good to see those out in battle, besides just in the cartoons.
Yeah, you usually don't see A-Wings out in the space battles. They're usually ground units, so that's kind of cool to see them out and about.
Yeah. Last time we saw them was Return of the Jedi in that battle. And apparently an A-Wing could take out a Super Star Destroyer, but we won't go into that one.
Yeah, we won't go into that. That's a whole nother theory.
Yeah, so here we go from an epic space battle now to, we see Luke for the first time actually talking to us. We see him, and he says the Jedi are to end. Yeah,
it's time for the Jedi to end. And everybody went, what?
What is going on here? We like the Jedi. We want to keep them around. We want another Jedi temple built up. But that may lead to the very fact of why he's saying what he's doing. He's like, we've gone through this cycle over and over and over, and every time
we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, we're doing something wrong. So that's why he's out here. He's trying to figure out the answers. How did the ancient Force users, Jedi, if they use that title, how did they do it? How did they use the Force? And it goes to your topic of gray Jedi. What is the balance? Why do we need to pick one side or the other? Why can't we just hold the balance and use just the Force?
Yeah. Well, and curious piece too, where he's standing, you get to see the silhouette of him, but on the outside, it does look like he's still on that island that you see in the opening scene of the trailer. And if you look real close, the walls there do kind of look the same as that image with the bookshelf. And I'm thinking maybe he is walking out of where the Force tree is, or maybe this is a cave system, because it does kind of look a little bit like the rocks outside as well. So again, I'm curious to really see that piece, but I think that right there kind of confirms that there is a cave system or something that's underneath this island that he's found.
Yeah. We'll see. It could be right after the revelation of him showing Rey the books, or the books might be somewhere else and somebody else discovered them, but who knows what's going on there. So that was that big revelation there, and here it is, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. So,
and it's almost here. Well, I shouldn't say it's almost here. It's gonna, it's gonna be like 4.5 years away. It's gonna be what it feels like. It doesn't come out till December.
Yeah, we'll wait on it December. Go check it out. A lot of people have been debating on the Jedi, if it's singular or plural. Apparently one translation put it as plural in another country, so people it's confirmed Last Jedi means a set of people, not just a person. But then, just today it was announced from one of the directors that he feels like it's a very singular line. So it gives even more credits to Luke being transitioning away from being a Jedi to now a Force user, a gray Jedi. So
yeah, I'm curious to see what they do. It's going to be very exciting, and I think we've got a lot more news going to be coming. So, all right, guys. Well, that does it for this episode. I hope you all have enjoyed our thoughts and the process that we've gone through. This is our little breakdown of the trailer. And if you guys enjoyed the content, don't forget, like the video, drop us a comment sometime because we always love to connect to new people. Check our material out, shoot us a note sometime, and guys, stay tuned to the channel because we are going to stay as close as we possibly can and get all the news updates out to you as quick as possible. I'm your host, IOGROW.
And I'm Victus.
And guys, we will see you all in the next episode.